Thank you for joining us for The Drive Back, the movie podcast where we imitate our favorite thing to do after a movie, which is talk about it on the ride home. My name is Garrett, and of course, I'm joined by my good friend and co host Adrian.
Hey.
And today we've got another double feature for you, which are the episodes where we each pick a movie, we review them both, watch them both, and come here to talk about them with you. And today we could not have picked two more different films. So our review coming up on The Drive Back. So yet another double feature. These are our favorite episodes to do because we get to catch up on our lists. So let's go ahead and just dive right in. The first film today is Singin' in the Rain. Released in 1952, it was directed by Stanley Donen and Gene Kelly, and stars Gene Kelly, Debbie Reynolds, and Donald O'Connor. A silent film star, and his friends try to make the transition from silent film to talkies during the 1920s in Hollywood. It was nominated for 2 Oscars, one for Best Original Score, and the other for Best Supporting Actress for Jean Hagen. So this was my pick for this week. This is a classic film in terms of Hollywood scope. It's always referenced. Singin' in the Rain is probably one of the most popular musical show tunes from film, and often imitated and parodied. But overall, I think that this movie is the classic that it is so rightly labeled as. It's an incredibly fun and charming film, and it's kind of the film we all just need to watch right now, I feel.
Yeah, and so this was the first time I'd ever seen it.
That's right.
I also had no concept. I didn't know it was a musical. I had no idea what this film entailed or what I was and a lot of surprises. It was surprisingly funny. I didn't know that it had comedy in it. I had no idea what this film was. So it was actually very welcome. I do agree that it was very wanted at this time. Just kind of a break from the normal film, like the big budget, multi-$100 million movies that we get every day now, it seems. It was nice to just get something that kind of, I don't want to say it took a step back because it is an incredible film, but it just kind of was a different feel, a different time, and you could tell, and it felt good.
Definitely. And that's one of the biggest things about it, right? It is a feel-good movie. This movie consistently it's, there's not a negative bone in it. There is the Lena character who is kind of like a villain, but she's not a villain. It's,
But even then, all of the problems in this movie are very fun and lighthearted problems.
Yes.
While the movie plays them up to be really large, in reality, it's all fun. Even the negative things that are purposefully negative in this movie are not sad or dark. They're all very light.
Yeah, and I think it really is a product of its time, right? 1952, we're 6-7 years after World War II at this point. I believe this is during the Korean War. So, it's a little bit more of a darker, time going on. So you have more films that are coming out that are more lighthearted, more romantic comedies, more musicals.
People wanted to escape, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is probably one of the biggest positives about this movie, is that in no shape or form is it any kind of way realistic. It's a feel-good musical. That is the kind of the end-all, be-all of it. There is one critique, though, I'd like to levy, and I want to see how you feel about it. It's a very minor one, and that is, and spoiler alert for Singin' in the Rain, which I think we both say go watch this movie.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, like I hadn't, it's probably not what you think it is. It's actually pretty entertaining. There's a lot of great jokes, upbeat comedy, and a story that continues to drive through, where you're not really ever bored with what's going on. It constantly is changing and evolving. So really, really interesting.
Yeah, and every musical sequence, every dance sequence is incredibly unique, and it keeps holding your attention. Usually, I kind of tune out during the musical segments of films, but this one keeps my attention every single time.
I will say, non-spoiler, some of the musical sections went on for a little too long for me. Some of the musical numbers, I would argue, were like 6 to 7 minutes,
Which
maybe longer. Maybe
now that we're talking spoilers, let me.
That wasn't
talk,
really a spoiler.
Well, I'm saying let me talk my critique because I agree with
Okay.
you there. There is one sequence that I feel does drag on a little too much, and that's the Broadway melody section, where towards the end of the film, spoiler alert, after they choose to make the dueling cavalier into the dancing cavalier, he talked about his idea on making the intro sequence where it's in Broadway, and that goes on for a while.
It actually goes on so long. There's another musical, like a dance scene within the musical number.
There's 2 or 3 within it. There's one where he's out on Broadway in like the suit, and then it's him like in the city, and then it's him dancing with the one girl, and then he's back in the city, and then he's back in this. It's like Danceception.
It's actually Inception. It's where they Christopher Nolan watched this movie and watched that sequence and went, "I've got it."
I just missed the part where the train comes barreling through in the street, but
well, that's the alternate ending actually.
Oh, Donald O'Connor is just like, whoa!
Yeah, it's great.
But it's a very minor complaint because, yes, it goes on for too long, but the singing is still done very well, and the dancing is incredible. Like, at the end of this movie, I came away saying, if I can dance half as good as Gene Kelly, I can die a happy man.
That is so funny you say that, because specifically in the oh my gosh, you just said it. The not the New York, but the melody section. Broadway melody. Specifically during that sequence, I was like, man, dancing really is like a whole thing. Like, he is just going for it with all these dance numbers. And I thought the same thing. It was really impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, I do want to highlight one person in particular, and that's Donald O'Connor, who plays his friend. There is a song and dance sequence in this called Make 'Em Laugh that is physically incredibly demanding, and he pulled it off so well. His physical comedy in this is outstanding. Especially for the time period, it's great.
Well, the comedy definitely still, it's so interesting because it is so dated. Watching it, you can immediately tell that it's dated comedy. We don't really make jokes in the same way anymore, but it still holds up because the movie's so lighthearted and so feel good that it hits home almost even more when they make these little jokes that aren't necessarily up to today's comedy standards, I would say, but almost better in a sense. And it's really interesting and fun to watch. It's a fun time.
Yeah, and I think for those of you who aren't into movie musicals, I would say this is a good one to start with, because I feel like it's pretty tame. It's not as wild as like Les Miserables or not by wild. I mean, like, intense.
I would also say that it's almost, because it's an older film, you might kind of forget that it's a musical while watching it because you're so fascinated with the colors and everything else going on. So it's probably a good dip your toes in, because it's a good movie on its own, and then the musical numbers fit even better.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and it does kind of fall prey to that whole, like, yeah, you're making a song out of like a passing statement, but those passing statements become more memorable musical numbers. So it's like, I'm totally okay with it.
Or like that entire song that is about literally what he's doing, which is singing in the rain.
Which is the title sequence for the song, and is the best song in the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an iconic scene for a reason.
But a lot of the songs in the movie are actual narration for what is happening on screen. They'll literally be lyrics like, and I walked. Yeah, and something that I did think was really funny during this was that kind of like, again, Singing in the Rain is like literally exactly what he's doing. But a lot of the songs in this are almost narration for the actions happening on screen, which isn't a bad thing. I don't want it to sound like one either. It almost makes the movie more enjoyable because the mundane tasks that happen in the film are made so cheerful and happy by this dancing and the singing that's going on, while what's happening on screen is relatively plain, but the songs definitely make it more enjoyable.
The songs and the dance, yeah, definitely. All the sequences kind of mashed together, like, or not sequences, all the elements coming together makes it truly like the magic that it is. You know, that old timey
Yeah,
Hollywood magic.
absolutely.
So let's talk about other performances. We already kind of talked about Donald O'Connor, who is fantastic in this movie. Gene Kelly is also, you know, a level of physical humor. And granted, this is the only film I've ever seen him in, so I can't say whether or not he's.
I would have to say the same. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't say he's, you know, if this is good or bad for him or whatever. But he's kind of this light-hearted character, and you know, like, and everything kind of goes right for him. So it's kind of like, you know, it's kind of hard to find a fault in that kind of character. And same with Debbie Reynolds, who plays I forget her name, but she comes
Kathy?
along, maybe meets him at the right moment and becomes a part of that little friend circle. And,
Kathy.
everyone falls in line in this movie, and they're all the performances are just, you know, they're hokey for the sake of being hokey.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just kind of the way it is for, you know, a 1950s musical. So
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's definitely it all fits the movie. It fits the bill. I mean, from beginning to end, this movie feels like itself. It doesn't really feel like anything else, and I think that's great. It made me enjoy it all the more.
Absolutely, and I think that it is, again, it's just irresistibly charming. Like, it's hard to kind of look at this movie and scoff or like have a bad thought during it. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah,
So-
it's just a good time.
But anything else you want to highlight or mention?
No,
Kind of quick and easy with this one. I mean, it's just.
well, I think it's
good
considered
time.
It's a classic. I mean, we can't talk about it any more or any better than anyone else has. I mean, this movie is absolutely phenomenal in history. So it's definitely. I mean, if you haven't heard of it, now you have, and if you look up anything on it, everyone's going to tell you to go watch it.
Exactly. So let's go ahead and dive into scores. This was my pick, so I'll go ahead and give my score first. Plain and simple, this is reaffirmed as my favorite musical of all time. Taken over, I think I said Phantom of the Opera during our top 10 genre film discussion. I gave it a 99. I think this movie deserves the classic mantle that it has. In addition, it's just endlessly charming. It's the kind of film we all need to watch right now and kind of drop this negativity we all seem to have right now. But yeah, 99 is where I sit. I took off 1 point just because the some of the sequences do go on a little bit longer.
Sure.
But maybe it's to pad for time.
Oh, which I definitely think it was. Yeah, I mean, kind of contrasting. I gave this movie an 89. I know that it's considered, that might be like a very controversial statement. I might get beat up right after this. But I give it an 89 just because I don't know if it's something that I will ever watch again. I personally feel like I've seen it and I don't feel like I need to rewatch it. And I also just don't know if this isn't the movie that if someone is looking for a movie to watch, I would be like, let's put on Singing in the Rain. Like, I just don't know if that's the play for me. So I just don't know if I think the ease of viewing has a little bit of a hurdle to it. It is definitely a classic. You have to be wanting to watch it. But it is good for what it is. And it definitely should go down as one of the best musicals of all time. Just the watchability is the hurdle for me.
Which is so interesting, because are you saying it's not easily watchable?
I'm saying it'd be hard for me to recommend to someone looking for a new movie.
Huh. I say the opposite. I feel like it'd be really easy for me to recommend this. But
It's your favorite musical.
that, and it's also just like, you know, it I don't know. It's just it's less like I guess not controversial. What's the other word when like you have like mixed reactions? I guess I don't know. Like
Contradicting?
Contradictory, yeah. Like The Greatest Showman. A lot of people love that movie, but a lot of people hate it too because it inaccurately shows what, you know, the circus industry did for people who were, you know, part of like the freak kind of thing. So I mean, like that, and then like, you know, oh, the Broadway's better. Oh, like just this one doesn't have any of that. It's just kind of universally loved. So
Yeah, I think it's not that if someone said I'm looking for a musical to watch, this would be, I could recommend that if they haven't seen it. But if someone's like, hey, it's Friday night, what should I watch? I think there's a lot of things I would recommend above Singing in the Rain.
Sure, fair enough. But let's go ahead and dive into our second movie for today, which is Overlord. Released in 2018, it was directed by Julius Avery and stars Jovan Adepo, excuse me, I almost butchered that, Wyatt Russell, and Matilda Olivier. A small group of American soldiers find horror and Nazi experimentation behind enemy lines on the eve of D-Day. So this was your pick. What made you choose this one?
So I thought I was watching it for the first time, and with every scene I realized I had seen it before, which isn't to say it's not memorable. It was just saying I wasn't paying attention the first time. But I actually was interested in this movie because it was speculated to originally be a Cloverfield universe film. That is kind of what the advertising was teasing. I mean, if you haven't seen Cloverfield, that immediately made me want to review it on this podcast because I want to talk about it. But this was supposed to be part of that J.J. Abrams Cloverfield universe. So that was the initial approach. And I guess the whole movie is still the same. They just took out a couple of scenes that were supposed to tie it in. So it still is that movie that it was supposed to be. And I just thought the concept was really interesting. I don't want to get into spoilers until we get there, but I think there were a lot of fun parts to this movie. And then there's a lot of stuff that's just kind of nonsensical and kind of that like dumb action movie mentality. But it's got a lot of stuff going for it as well. I think it was a pretty good, I don't even know if you could call it original because the idea isn't that original, but I would say original idea for a film.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, we haven't really received like American soldiers fighting Nazi. They're not zombies, but like experiments type movie. At least that was major Hollywood release. So it was kind of interesting in that regard.
Well, you could argue that it was like Captain America.
Well, one of the Captain Americas is in this.
Well, now, yeah.
But I mean, I think this movie is a lot of fun. I think it has some fun set pieces. For me, I think you can definitely tell it was made on a budget. A lot of extended use of the same sets, the same locations. But not to say that the sets or anything are bad. They're like especially the Nazi labs and stuff are very
very elaborate,
and very well done. The performances are a little hit or miss. I feel like the main character, Jovan Adepo plays, was fine. I also feel that the character Wyatt Russell plays, I think his name is Ford, is also a good presence. I feel like he's starting to play the same character over and over again.
While watching it, I was literally thinking, is this a prequel to Falcon and Winter Soldier?
But I feel like everyone else was just like kind of dry. They had like the stereotypical Brooklyn soldier who's like crapping on everybody and chewing his gum. Like it, I don't know. A little bit of it kind of felt stereotypical. It was also a little short.
I would agree. I wanted more explanation about what was going on. I feel like we didn't really get too much. We got just enough to kind of satisfy that craving, but nothing in depth, which I would have liked.
I kind of feel like this movie didn't, and I'm kind of getting into spoilers here, so we'll drop some spoilers for Overlord. I kind of feel like it didn't really quite know what it wanted to do with the experiment stuff. Mm-hmm. We're trying to find a way to make Hitler's 1,000-year Reich a thing, and he needs 1,000-year soldiers. And it's like, okay, but are you making zombies? Are they mutants? Are they super soldier serum type things? What exactly is it? And there were zombie-looking people, and then the main villain, I think Waffner is his name. He's not a zombie. He didn't react the same way the other guy did, but he's still missing his jaw or whatever. And Ford takes it at some point, and he's like, okay. It's just kind of weird. It didn't know what it wanted to be for me.
I completely agree, and I think that stems from it deciding to not be a Cloverfield film. I think there's a lot of this movie that kind of you can see hints here and there. I don't want to spoil Cloverfield for anyone, but hints here and there that kind of are like, oh, that makes sense. That would have been this. And you can see that they removed certain aspects of the film because it didn't tie in enough. It was just those little tidbits. So I think that might be where the movie got lost in its own identity because it literally changed last minute. They had everything kind of sorted out and then said, oh, wait, it's not going to be that anymore. So I think it definitely got split.
Yeah, and I actually think this movie would have been better if it kept in the Cloverfield elements because...
I agree.
I mean, I get it. Cloverfield Paradox wasn't received well, but that doesn't mean you have to can the entire franchise at that point. Like,
if anything, the fact that it didn't go very well, I thought that opened it up even more because now we're not expecting A+++ films from the universe. Just release whatever you want.
And to be fair, out of the 3 Cloverfield movies, only one of them is like an A-level movie. Like, everything else is a B. Like,
the second one, yeah, the first one's just more like a classic now.
Yes, 10 Cloverfield Lane is an amazing film, though.
Yeah, the second one, yeah. But again, so loosely tied that I feel like they could have left in whatever the tie-in was in Overlord. Mm-hmm. I'm actually really agree with you that I'm super bummed they took it out. I feel like it would have been better for it.
Yeah. One of the other things I want to highlight, though, is an awesome intro sequence having to do with the planes over
wow,
France.
Yeah.
And one thing that was kind of bugging me, and I don't know if it's historically accurate or not, and I don't know if any of our fans out there are historians, but one of the characters mentions something to Boyce, the main character, and says, "Oh, my last name's Rosenfeld. Do you know what the Nazis do to someone with the last name Rosenfeld?" And which I'm assuming is a name of Jewish heritage, but if my understanding is correct, the Americans didn't know about any of the stuff going on with the Jewish community in Germany and in Europe until like 1945.
I didn't pay enough attention in history class to tell you that.
Fair enough. I think they may have known like how they were being treated, but not like I knew we definitely didn't know about like the concentration camps or anything. But maybe we knew about like, ghettos and stuff. I don't know, but like it kind of comes out of nowhere. And not just this movie; it's a lot of World War II movies and games and such that bring up that, and it's kind of like, well, we didn't know. As far as
we didn't know the severity, is what you're saying. Yeah, we just didn't know how severe it was.
Let me know if I'm wrong, because I am wrong a lot.
But I do think this movie did a good job of like setting at least the tones that it did try for with the war. I feel like it succeeded in kind of the gravity of the war and what was going on and the relationship between townspeople and the Nazis that would roam through, especially like the higher ups and stuff. I feel like it did nail some of that dynamic. So here's what I'll say. I think the things that it did try, for the most part, it succeeded in. Mm-hmm. I just think it got lost a little bit on what it was succeeding. I think those kind of got mixed up a little bit and created kind of a muddy story. But I mean, I still enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun movie.
Yeah. I would also add it does have some pacing issues as well. It kind of leaves the reveal of all this stuff going on underneath the church until like the last 40 minutes. It feels like. And like for a movie that's trying to be like this World War II horror action movie, like they should have extended that, I think. Maybe they get out and it starts attacking the Nazis too or something. I don't know. Like that would have been at least a little bit more interesting, I think. But not to say this movie's not interesting. I mean, that would have like helped it kind of have a more even pacing, because it kind of started out like, oh, this is just a normal World War II movie, and then there's inklings of things that are going on, and then when it's finally revealed at the bottom of the church, it just kind of feels a long way into the movie.
Yeah, I would agree. It seems like the movie, I don't know, because I feel like the intro starts off really large, and then I guess the middle is where it gets a little slow, and then it really picks up again in the last, I would say, like 20 to 30 minutes. Where everything is kind of happening at once. And it's a great 30 minutes. You just have to wait a little bit for it, which is I don't know if it's it is a negative, but it's not a huge negative for me. I enjoyed the story. And I just thought it was fun. I hope we get more movies like it. I feel like it was a really kind of fresh idea. So
yeah, I would also love a proper like Call of Duty Nazi Zombies film. I think that's
kind of what this movie. It felt like it was trying to capture kind of that zombies feel from Call of Duty. Like it's almost like J.J. Abrams. I don't know if he has a kid or anything, but like his son was playing it or something, and he's like, interesting, and wrote all that down.
Yeah. Well, let's be clear. J.J. Abrams does not direct this movie.
No, he produced it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he produced it. But he funded it. So I feel like that's what
he's supposed to be a part of his universe. So yeah.
Yeah. But you definitely get those vibes. So if you like playing zombies and stuff, it feels a lot like that at a lot of points in this movie.
Yeah, if you're looking for a fun action horror movie to watch on a Friday, Saturday night, this is a great one. So
totally, yeah.
Just don't look for anything more than that.
Especially don't look under the church.
Yeah. But other than that, anything you want to bring up? Any last minute kind of critiques or anything?
No, I do think this is if you love the Cloverfield universe and you've seen the other three, this is as close as you're going to get to a fourth installment. So I would say it's worth watching from that aspect, just because you're going to get a lot of that same like feel of a movie. There's a lot of similarities in terms of tone and stuff like that. So it's definitely as close as you'll get. So check it out if that's what you're looking for.
Alrighty. Well, let's go ahead and jump into scores then. Adrian, this was your pick. What did you give Overlord?
I gave this movie an 81. For an action movie, it's definitely not amazing. Like, it's not going to blow your socks off, but it is just a fun movie, like you said. It's just kind of cool to hang out and watch, especially if you've seen it once already. This is an easy background movie, a little violent maybe, but there's a lot of cool stuff in it. And it's interesting the first time. Definitely, the plot kept me curious for the whole thing. I was interested to see where it was going to go. So that was worth it on its own.
Alrighty. Well, I ended up giving it a 66, just because it was fun, and I think, like you said with Singin' in the Rain, it's not a movie I'm going to watch again, I don't think.
Sure.
This isn't one that I'd go out and buy. Like, it wasn't especially good looking or anything like that. It's just, it served its purpose. It's kind of one of those movies that comes out around Halloween, and you enjoy it.
To be honest, now that you say that, I feel like this definitely could have been like a Netflix film.
Oh, definitely.
It feels very much like that Netflix blockbuster that we get now, like the big Netflix movie out of all of them. That's definitely what it feels like.
This would have been released on Netflix if it came out this year.
Yeah,
or
100%.
Yeah. But alright, that's going to bring us to an end for this double feature episode. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe down below, or you find us somewhere on social media. Where can they find us, Adrian?
You can find us at the Drive Back Podcast anywhere you'd like. We've gotten a couple really fun comments recently, and there's just a lot of fun conversations going on. So we always post what we're up to. YouTube specifically, though, is where we have exclusive content. So you'll get a lot more if you're not taking us on the go with Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and you won't sit there and look at our faces. We do have a lot more going on here on YouTube. But we always talk about it on social media, so you'll always be up to date if you follow us anywhere.
Absolutely, and this is coming out on Monday, so by this point, you should already see YouTube exclusives. My review for Without Remorse will be coming out will already be out, and then also my review for The Mitchells versus the Machines will also be coming out as well. So it should be out both by the time this releases. So thank you very much for listening, thank you much for watching, and we'll see you next time on The Drive Back. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Drive Back. Make sure to be on the lookout for new episodes every Monday, and make sure to follow us on social media.